What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the channel and welcome to my review of Wicked for Good. This is the second part of the Broadway play adaptation, this time following Elphaba as she lives in exile after the events of the first film, finding out that the Wizard of Oz, who she looked up to, isn't the person that she thought he was. Now she is trying to warn the people of Oz that the wizard isn't really who he says he is, and people don't really believe that. They believe everything that they are being told. Now she's made out to be looked at as the Wicked Witch of the West, while Glinda is given the title of Glinda the Good. Now these two have to try to come together and find a peaceful resolution and hopefully have a wonderful conclusion to this 5-hour epic between Wicked and Wicked for Good. Now for a little bit of background, I enjoyed Wicked for what it was. I didn't love it as much as a lot of people. I thought it was fine for what it was. It was beautiful, magical, the performances were great. This is coming from somebody that has never seen the play or know anything about it. Rewatching it again yesterday before going into my screening of Wicked for Good, I enjoyed it more on a second rewatch than I did the first time. The songs kind of started to grow a little bit more on me the second time. So going into this movie, I was really hoping that I would come out really enjoying it. And when we put these two together, we would have a fun and emotional 5-hour epic that would come together perfectly. Unfortunately, for me at least, I'm probably going to be in the minority when it comes down to Wicked for Good. I was slightly disappointed with this movie. Now, John M. Chu takes the best things about the first film and just amps it up a little bit more. Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo are fantastic as Glinda and Elphaba. These two have wonderful chemistry on screen and off screen that you just vibe with them together. They are perfectly cast and they bring their A game to this movie. Every single step of the way that you take with these two characters, they are perfect, and you do want to follow these two on the journey that they're going on because they are going on two separate journeys. You have Glinda, who is living in Oz, and she's being looked at as giving everybody hope and happiness so that when Elphaba comes into town, then she can kind of calm them down. And then on the other hand, you have Elphaba, who's living on the outskirts of Oz. She's living alone. People are hunting her down after the events of the first film. So you kind of see exactly where these two are in their point of time. But just the way that these two work together is really the highlight and is what makes this movie at least watchable for me. You do care about these two characters and you do want to follow the journey that they go on, plus the whole world of Oz and the practical visuals that we have on screen is the best things about the first part and Wicked for Good. You can tell that they paid so much attention to detail when it came down to crafting Oz and trying to make it as faithful to the Wizard of Oz as much as they possibly could. Even though I like to think of this as a separate thing from Wizard of Oz, they do a really good job of getting you back into this world, especially if you were a fan of the first part, and just the practical effects that we have on display are really beautiful. Plus, some of the side characters that we have in here with Michelle Yeoh, Jeff Goldblum, and Jonathan Bailey, the performances are top notch from everybody. I think the real highlight of this movie was Jonathan Bailey. He impressed me more in this movie than he did in Wicked. His character kind of started to grow on me a little bit more towards the end of that movie, but here he starts to step it up, and he is somebody that I am starting to kind of look forward to whenever he pops up on screen because I think he is just oozing with a lot of charisma, and the chemistry between not only just him and Ariana Grande, but also with him and Cynthia Erivo whenever we have these two interacting with each other. This movie is really held by a lot of the performances, and I know that Ariana Grande is pretty much the front runner for the Oscar campaign whenever that starts to get running. I don't think I'm on that train just yet. I need to see who the other front runners are, but if the Oscars were held tomorrow, I don't know if I would be giving her the Oscar nom because even though she is fantastic in this movie, she is great. There is nothing in here that really impressed me like it did in the first part. It was more of what we got in that film, but she's still great, and the chemistry between her and Cynthia Erivo is fantastic. Some of the dance sequences are really the standout, especially in one scene involving Jeff Goldblum, Cynthia Erivo, and Ariana Grande, where they're dancing in the Wizard's book room or whatever that area was. That whole sequence was dazzling. A lot of the visual effects in this movie are beautiful to see and really gets you immersed in this world. The issue when it comes down to me and Wicked for Good is the fact that this movie is really slow and it never picks up. While there are a lot of good nuggets in here, for me the script was a little lackluster and it never really picked up for me. The movie picks up where the first film ended, and you do want to see that journey unfold. You want to see what that's actually going to transpire. But for me, as the film kept going on, I was just not able to get emotionally hooked with any of the storylines that we are concluding. Whilst there are going to be a lot of people who are fans of the Broadway play and the first part, they will be the ones that are going to be more emotionally hooked than I was. I wanted to feel those emotions kind of start to rise up in me, but I just was never able to get into those layers, mostly because I almost broke my cardinal rule when it comes down to movies, and that is kind of pulling out my phone to see how much time there was left in this film, because I was just bored shitless. One of the things that I heard from people from my Wicked review was that I wasn't the biggest fan of some of the side characters when it came down to Glinda and her friends, and I heard that they were going to be having a bigger role in part 2 than they did in part 1. I have no idea what they were talking about, because maybe in the play they had a bigger role. And I'm talking about Bo and Yang and the other friend whose name is escaping me right now. But those characters don't really do much in here. They just show up for like 5 minutes and are completely useless. When it came down to Bach and what they did with that character, it was an interesting thing. It just never went anywhere for me to get emotionally hooked, because they do some things with his characters when it came down to the relationship between him and Nessa and how that whole relationship kind of transpires. There are some plot points from the original film they are trying to conclude when it comes down to concluding those story arcs. It just never got to those emotional hooks that I really wanted this movie to be. The trailers looked all fantastic, and I really wanted to see how much adaptation they were going to do from the Broadway play over to the big screen, because from what I hear is that the play is about 3 hours, 3.5 hours, maybe 4 hours long. So I wasn't sure how much of the play they were going to be taking over to the big screen, adapting that into the big screen medium. A lot of the plot points and a lot of the things that they are trying to do just felt incredibly rushed, so we can get to the Wizard of Oz moments with Dorothy arriving, the house falling on Nessa, them meeting the Cowardly Lion, the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, and ultimately ending where the Wizard of Oz ends and where Wicked begins. A lot of the plot points in here just felt rushed and contrived, that you don't really get a lot of moments for them to breathe. They just feel like they are being glossed over. This movie is just focused mostly on Fiero, Elphaba, Glinda, just trying to wrap those storylines up. For fans of the play and for Wicked, are going to be coming out pretty satisfied with the conclusion. There is a beautiful conclusion that I think is going to be satisfying for a lot of fans of this property and wanting to see exactly how it's going to unravel. For me, the script just felt like it was just trying to rush to those Wizard of Oz moments and trying to just hit those points so we can just get this over with and wrap everything up. It is a little bit more darker than the first part. There are elements that I thought were really fascinating when it came down to the animal cruelty section. Just seeing that whole thing unravel, having that conclusion, I was just never able to get emotionally hooked with those storylines and the conclusion to this. There are moments that don't feel like they get to breathe, and the songs in here, maybe like part 1, they will grow on me later. Don't have any plans to rewatch Wicked for good anytime soon, so maybe they will grow on me like it did with part 1. Overall, I kind of left this movie slightly disappointed. There's a lot for fans to really enjoy and get emotionally hooked. Maybe it's because I don't have that big of attachment to the Broadway play since I've never seen it and I've never seen Wizard of Oz. So maybe that's probably a factor playing into this, but as somebody that is obsessed within the height, I think there are times when you are able to get emotionally connected to something that you're not really all that familiar if it's well done. John M. Chu kicks ass when it comes down to directing this film and just making everything look all lived in and visually beautiful. It's just the pacing of this movie that is just really slow, and it just never picks up for me. Maybe it did for you, but overall, I just came out slightly disappointed. But those are my thoughts on Wicked for Good. Let me know down in the comments if you enjoyed this movie. Did you come out satisfied with the ending? And how does it measure up to the Broadway play now that you've seen both parts? How much of the liberty that they took adapting that play into the big screen did you like? Did you not like? Drop those thoughts in the comments below. I'm going to be in the minority probably that didn't really enjoy this as much as a lot of people do. But let me know down in the comments what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys for the next video.